Blessed day, blessed morning to all of you who are here and our brothers and sisters who are joining us in our worship through this live stream in other parts of the world. Again, I would like to focus this reflection on the first reading, as I usually do during weekdays. We have been reading for several days from the letter of Paul to the community of Corinth, one of the big or great communities visited, evangelized by Paul. In today's first reading, we pose the question, when God calls people for himself or for his kingdom or for his church, with what criteria or criterion he uses? Right away we realize that his ways are not our ways. Oftentimes his ways are perplexing, paradoxical, and disconcerting. We find the first reading, for example, the issue of this issue being considered by Paul in his reflection. Looking at the membership of that Christian community of Corinth, the majority was poor people. He would say, not many of you were wise, probably of good education by human standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were noble by birth. Paul turns to these persons to reflect on the poverty of humanity. Paul is not ashamed of his being human and to manifest the radical weakness of human condition. But precisely in such radical poverty that Paul discovers a great possibility in humans, with the help, of course, of God, of making things new, of redeeming humankind with little initiatives or little capacities, and acting out from our own misery. In poverty, humans discover themselves without illusions and can truly glorify God in their relationship with God. Such poverty, shall we say, inhabited by God, willed by God. Now, humans can act with a new sense of freedom, thus giving their lives new dimension and also help others. All these are not, shall we say, exaltations of poverty or the experience of the humanizing experience of poverty. This is not the intention of Paul. Rather, he wants to convince his hearers, us, of the radical poverty of our human existence, of every person, rich or poor materially. Within this point of view and within this acceptance of this liberating power of God, rich or poor person, one can start a new life. Once received with faith the power of God, one would truly appreciate one's poverty before God. At the bottom line, Paul wants us to realize of our poverty so that we may not place our trust on ourselves, on our capacities or talents, but put our trust only in God. In this way, the excellence of God's power and grace may be made manifest through us, through our own poverty and weakness. As Paul said in another place, "Therefore I am content with weakness, for when I am weak, that I am strong. For the power of God is at work in me." Another lesson that Paul emphasizes here is that because of our poverty, human poverty, that we cannot claim and we cannot boast before God or glorify ourselves before God, is precisely this: humility before God. No, that we cannot boast of anything and claim reward for ourselves. This is at times one of the things that Paul would teach vigorously, especially in his letter to the Romans, showing that humanity, we humans, we cannot claim our own, no, and present to God our own righteousness according to our own capacities. Ultimately, it is God who enables us. And it is important that we realize our poverty, our nothingness before God, so that He can work in us and bring out the best, not for us only, but to glorify and God's name. We ask then the Lord that we as Christians may continually grow in this sense of and appreciate our poverty before God, and grow in this consciousness of our dependence on God, allowing Him to enrich us with His grace, and whatever good that we can do, ultimately, it is not because of us, but it is because of God and His God's grace. And the good that we may do may give glory to God. So, as we celebrate this Holy Mass, we see once again that the shall we say, the poverty of Christ, of giving Himself to the Father on the cross, proof of His dependence and obedience to God, has become the source of life and redemption for all of us. So we thank God for such a gift to us.